glorious Sunday morning. I know I've been away for a bit, but we are back with Brunches and Dragons. And yes, I can see we're live online. Hooray, I win. We're back with Brunches and Dragons with the wonderful opera geek, or Kelly. Before I let Kelly introduce herself, I just want to remind anybody who hasn't been here before, hi Luth, who hasn't been here before, that this is a storytelling experiment experience. So Kelly and I will be telling a story about Amira. We're going to figure out what that story is right now. I haven't prepared anything. This is I'm practicing some improv skills. I'm also going to try and magically make up a magic item, which will probably annoy at least one of my players from my regular campaigns because he likes things to be balanced. My magic items are not balanced. So Kelly, if I do give you a magic item for this character and you decide to use this character in another campaign, please warn that GM before you bring up this magic item, because I don't even know what it's going to be. Now, I met Kelly at conventions. Kelly and I both go to gaming conventions. I had been following her online because she's super neat. And when I saw her in person, I was, of course, a dork about it. And I want to tell everybody that Kelly is super kind, and I really appreciate the presence she has online. I think it's a good space to be in. It promotes a lot of mental health, and it has a lot of, I don't know, like facts that are true and you should listen, that kind of thing. That's how I feel. So yeah, Kelly also has the cutest dog in the world, which I say unashamed of, my super dog. I mean, look at that face. I love that dog. That dog is so cute. He always looks slightly concerned.
He's always concerned or judging you.
Right. Yeah, it's perfect.
That's the answer.
Whereas my dogs pout, which is just, it's cute, but Scotty's cuter. Anyway, Kelly, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
So first I want to say, you're saying you acted like a dork when I jumped down off the stage and ran over so I could ask if Tara was working, so that I could pet her if she wasn't.
I forgot about that. That's right.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Which one of us was the nerd, really?
Well,
hello. Yes, I'm Kelly. I'm mostly known as the Opera Geek. I do answer to it at this point because more people call me that than my actual name on the internet most times.
That's fair.
I am a professional opera singer and streamer and voice actress and just general nerd. But yes, I met Seven at PAX East in 2018. Yeah, and I did. I took off because I was like, I'm not. If I remember, I actually held my hands behind my back because I was like, I won't touch.
Yeah, no, you were very polite. I really appreciated it. A lot of people just walk up and they'll start petting Tara and be like, "Can I pet your dog?" And I'm like, "No." And they're like, "Are you sure though?" As they're petting my dog, and I'm like, "Stop it." So I really appreciate it when people ask.
Like I told you, no.
Well, there are some service dogs that people, their handlers are okay with them touching, but Tara is love driven. So if some random human starts petting her, it messes up her training if I let it happen a lot. So it has to be the right conditions. She has to be given permission. It has to, and it turns out if you take a vest off of a well-behaved service dog and it turns into the, gambooling puppy that Tara turns into when you take her vest off in the middle of like a convention center, the staff doesn't like it for some reason. So I do very much appreciate it.
Yeah. Yep. Nope. But, oh, and also let me know if I'm muted because I do have a tendency to mute myself and forget that I'm muted and then I just talk.
Oh, I will. But, yeah.
That's me. I actually created, I was telling her, I created this character about 2 years ago for use in a one-shot and I haven't touched her since. So that's kind of good.
It'll be
Perfect
good
for this setup.
Yeah, it'll be great. Yeah, Luth mutes all the time and talks, which is why he is required to have his camera on when we play video games now. Because, he'll be sitting there for like a half an hour and me and the other people in the game will be talking and then he'll unmute and be like, I've been muted for 30 minutes. And
I did that last night in our D&D home game and my druid was doing the best witty rejoinders.
Yeah.
And it was not... And then I got eaten by a shambling mound, so it was just not a great night.
Wow, yeah, no. I love shambling mounds. They're super good. Yeah, they're very good. Yeah, they're very gross. I forgot to mention this earlier. So Kelly and I do not play together. I think this is the first time Kelly and I would be playing D&D together. So one of the things I do with new players is I ask what their pronouns are. Mine are she, her. Would you mind sharing yours with me?
She, her is fine.
Excellent. I'll be asking you the same thing about your character, and I will do my level best to keep it right. Although, when in doubt, I use they. Just so I
Yeah,
can.
it is also she, her for Amira.
Okay.
I have a tendency to stay with the pronouns that I use because it's also easier for me to remember.
Fair enough.
So I do change sometimes, but Amira is a she, her character.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. Is there anything else you want to share about yourself with the stream before you start introducing us to Amira? Is there any at the end of the stream? I'll ask you to share where people can find you and that sort of thing, so that they know where you're gonna pop up next. Anything else you want to share right now?
All over. No, I think we should just get into it.
Okay, we've got some fun viewers in chat. Hello, Chiron. Hello, Rosie. Luth, you're the best. Luth's my husband.
See, my husband just trolls me in our games.
Yeah, I'm a bit delicate and insecure when I'm a GM, so Luth tends to be like, "You're doing a good job, baby." It's like, "Oh, thanks."
Yeah, no, it's our first streamed game together, Rime of the Frost Maiden, over on Wandering DM.
Okay.
We are in session 7, episode 7, and we still don't know his character's name.
Awesome. Those are fun. I really love those.
We call him Mr. Fancy Pants.
That's amazing. I don't know why I'm not watching this. This is great. I'm gonna call him it the next time I see him. I'm just gonna be like, "Hi."
Oh, he'll answer to it.
I'm not gonna call him Pyro Jesus. I'm gonna be like, "Hello, Mr. Fancy Pants. How are we doing today?"
He will answer to it because Diana calls him that now.
That's so good. Okay. Okay. So what are we looking at with Amira? Go ahead and introduce her.
So, Amira was originally built for a very specific world. That was a world building thing. But she is the only actual fighter that I've built ever. She is a champion. Well, I mean, at level 1 here, she was built to be a champion. But since we're starting at level 1, I can take a different route if that's what the story works out for. She is a quite tall character. I tend to also play tall characters because that's what I can relate to.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and do you want appearance or did you want to decide that on your own?
Oh no, I absolutely do not want to decide that on my own. I have enough to make up.
Okay.
You tell me what she looks like.
Okay, so she is also one of my first experiments in actually playing a lawful neutral alignment.
Ooh.
I'm usually not great at lawful alignments.
Oh, really? Why would that be?
In real life, yes. Absolutely. I am a square, but in D&D, I am chaotic as hell.
Yeah.
So yes, she's quite tall. She has very short brown hair that it looks like she probably just took a knife and cut herself. So it's like high bones.
Spiky?
It's very pixie cut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kitty kitty. So Psyche, yes.
No, Spiky.
Yes.
I said Spiky.
Yeah. There's a character. Sorry, there's a character in an anime that has the exact hair.
Yeah, that's what I'm probably thinking of the same character. Yeah. Perfect. Okay.
Psyche, yeah. So yeah, it's a mess. She's about 25. She's not too old, and she was designed originally with the City Watch / investigator background.
Okay.
And she carries a big old 2-handed greatsword.
Ooh. Sorry, City Watch investigator background?
It's a City Watch. It's City Watch / investigator. The feature of that background, so that you don't have to go look it up, because it might affect the story, is your experience in enforcing the law and dealing with lawbreakers gives you a feel for local laws and criminals. You can easily find the local outpost of the Watch or similar, and just as easily pick out dens of criminal activity, though you're more likely to be welcome in the former rather than the latter.
Okay, that's good to know. I am happy to use anything you've created in the past, or if you want to change that direction at all, whatever we come up with, that'll be good.
Well, if it fits in your world, I think because I played her as a City Watch, but she could also easily be an independent investigator. So whichever works.
Yeah, I think those could be some interesting storylines to go down. I think City Watch as an idea is something that is in many of the cities that we've worked in so far, and I absolutely see that as being part of the world, as having a group of humans that keep an eye on the city. Investigator world,
Yeah,
there's always going to be investigators. We did
always investigators.
one of our
Yeah.
first big arcs in my first D&D campaign was a murder mystery. So
Yay, true crime.
must have.
It might. I'm also a huge true crime fanatic, which is another reason. And for anybody in chat who does read them, she was originally based on Angua from Discworld's Night Watch. So there you go.
I'm really
The
excited
hair
about
stick
that.
info.
I keep meaning to read those again. I was just telling Kelly before we got started. Stop
Let's
erasing
start with
things.
guards. You can read the other ones later.
I'm actually gonna ask.
Start with guards.
I need to look through your Twitter, but I'm gonna ask you which ones to start with because I've tried to start with the read order and I've been told that's terrible.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, don't. I only tell people to start with the read order if they're not familiar with fantasy settings, because they put together the fantasy. You can go by arcs, and my favorite characters are the Night Watch and Sandvine. So
yeah. Okay, that's good to know. All right, so we've got a lawful neutral character. We've got City Watch investigator background. So we've got somebody that could be investigating a crime or could be encountering something a City Watch would normally encounter, like, and we could mix it up and say maybe the City Watch becomes aware of like a smuggler ring, and suddenly needs to like find the smuggler's den or something like that. Does that sound?
oh my god, I forgot how bad of stats I rolled on this character.
Oh, did we roll bad stats? Yeah. Yeah. Let's look at these.
They're
Oh,
real bad.
you super did. There's so many zeros there.
They're really bad. Oh god.
But this can
Yeah.
this can sometimes provide more interesting character moments. You know, it doesn't always have to be the most
Yeah,
powerful
it's-
and well put together character to provide good moments.
Yeah, an investigator with +0 to wisdom. That's awesome.
I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure it's gonna be.
I'm sure it's absolutely fine. There's no problem there. No.
No. I see no problem with that. No. Well, so we could go the smuggler route. We could go the we could go the murder mystery route, true crime. We could go we could have a particularly clever thief that only steals a certain kind of thing. We could go. Is any of this?
I mean, I do love a good murder mystery.
Mhm.
I do. I really do.
All right.
I'm rather encyclopedic
Let's do that.
on that kind of thing.
Let's do that. That sounds awesome. Would you?
My husband may or may not have letters lodged with his friends in case he's not heard from in 2 weeks.
Oh my God, that's a little scary, Kelly.
Okay, that's a joke.
That's a joke.
Mostly.
Okay, good to know.
Mostly.
Mostly, yeah. Okay, so we are only going to be playing for about an hour, which is good. I like doing this kind of thing because it makes you think in a different way. So we're not going to be able to go through a whole murder mystery. I think the last time I ran a murder mystery, it took 4 months for them to get through the whole thing.
Yeah, it takes a while.
So let's not do that. Let's do something. Do you wanna go through the part of the story where you're first being introduced to this situation? You are sort of in the middle where you're starting to figure things out, and I can say things like, "You figured this out. What do you think the next step would be?"
What about if she's an investigator brought from another city to help?
So
They've already got a bunch of the case, then they just need outside eyes to kind of put the pieces together.
That's a great idea. Yeah. And how important is it for you to catch the murderer with me today in the next hour?
That's not important,
Okay.
because then your characters in your other game could actually catch the murderer or know about the murderer, or it's a great cold case that never got solved.
Yep.
That kind of thing.
That's a good idea. I was explaining to Kelly that it's I really like doing these because they generate content for the worlds that I run with my other 3 campaigns for Zinlia, and I really love that you're leaning right into that. Thank you so much. It's very helpful.
Yeah, this could be like the Jack the Ripper of that
that world. Yeah.
Nobody knows.
Okay, so you're an outside investigator. You've been brought in for your expertise. So they have already gathered a lot of the evidence that you'll need. I'll probably need your help constructing this because I am not a true crime follower, so I don't know like the lingo and that kind of thing. What do you think would be appropriate for her to walk into for a situation, as far as like how much content they'd have, especially in sort of a fantasy background. I imagine that
Okay.
murder gets found, you know. As far as evidence goes, would it be appropriate for there to be magic involved? Would there have to be a twist there? Should this be like a
The
straight?
problem with using magic once to solve a problem is then you're going to use magic to solve all your problems.
Oh, I don't mean to. Yeah, so I use magic constantly, and I
No, no,
walk
I
that line.
know, but that would be her response.
Oh, yeah. So I completely understand that. I'm wondering if the murder should be caused by magic, so it adds sort of some complexity there.
It depends if you want one murder or if you want a chain of murders.
I'm thinking a chain of murders that causes
Hmm.
more story
More hubbub.
possibilities. Yeah, more
Yeah.
hubbub. Yeah.
So depending on the city that she would be in,
Hmm.
I think if the murders were done with magic, it might lead to too quick of a resolution because magic is easier to track down.
That's fair. Okay, so let's say no magic, which
Mundane means.
let's say in this city's a bit odd. I wonder if this city has. Have you ever read any books where they're sort of ritualistic around magic? So if you, or not magic, but
Oh
murder.
yeah.
So let's say in
Hmm.
this city, it's sort of accepted that murders are done by magic. So a murder
Hmm.
that's not done by magic stands out. Multiple murders not done
Hmm.
by magic stands out. Does that sound good?
That sounds fine.
Okay, so we're probably going to use a city I haven't come up with yet, which is awesome. And I'm taking notes for those of you wondering why it's quiet. Okay, so we've got a city, which I'll come up with a name for later. We'll just call it the city for now. How would you have been brought into this? Would your captain have sent you? Are you a private eye? What do you think?
I think possibly she would have been sent from another city.
Mm-hmm.
Given that she's lawful, I think private eye isn't necessarily the way to go.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They tend to not be, or
Yep.
at least use means that are not.
Yep.
But if she was sent, maybe she's the problem child that asks too many questions in her city, so they send her to another one.
I like
So she
that.
becomes
Yeah,
somebody else's problem
I
of
like
asking
that.
too many questions.
And she's what if she's one of the reasons she's annoying is she tends to be right. She asks the right questions and and
Hmm.
like gets there faster than everybody else. So while she's being annoying asking the questions and then it's even more annoying because she was right.
And then you wonder how she knows the things she does. So she's probably that person that after hours does all sorts of weird experiments in the basement,
Perfect. So it's not that
even with an intelligence score of 0.
it's not
Ugh.
like they're trying to get rid of her because she's not good at her job, but they just need a break sometimes. Like they want somebody else to shine. Yeah, okay.
Or it just they need a break from the incessant questions, which if you ask my mother, is she would be able to tell you all about that.
Oh yeah, I'm an incessant question asker too. You and I would have a good time. You should probably not introduce me to your mother. That
Oh no, she's very patient, but it's just sometimes she's like, because.
yeah.
What? Because.
My mom tends to go, "Do I have to interact with you, or will you just keep talking forever?" It's like,
Hmm.
"Well, yeah,
Hmm.
I will keep talking forever. Thanks, mom."
I will, thank you very much.
Yes, and she'll be like, "Okay, I'm gonna knit while you do this." And I'll be like, "Okay," and she
Yeah.
listens. You know, yeah.
That
Mom,
works.
moms are great. Okay, so she's a problem child.
Moms are
She's
great.
been sent. Now, how do you think Amira feels about this? Does Amira know that she's a bit annoying to her
No,
captain and colleagues,
she has
or
no idea.
does she see this
She
as
has no
a
idea.
fun adventure?
She would see this as them seeing her as doing really good work, so they sent her somewhere. She would not pick up on the social cues that she's annoying.
Got it. I think she's doing good work. Sorry, you didn't use the word reward. What word did you use?
Oh God, what word did I use? Hi, web captioner, where are you? Oh, I don't have it.
It's too late now.
Yeah, it's too late. I think it was
Opportunity?
recognition.
Recognition.
Like recognition.
Yep.
Mhm.
Recognition of good work. Okay. All right. So I'm not quite sure how you would have traveled here at all, but do you think the travel would be something that would cause anxiety for her at all? Like, should it be a short trip, a long trip?
No, I don't think she would be anxious about the travel. She would want to get there.
Mhm.
It doesn't make sense, depending on a fantasy world, for it to be from too far away, because in that case, they wouldn't have, like, the respective leads of the cities wouldn't know or care enough
Yeah, that's totally
to
fair.
ask the other city. So I would say probably like within a day to 2 days travel.
That works.
Thinking about a city that this person might have fled to.
Sorry, I have to get my rolling tray out in case I end up having to roll. That makes a lot of sense. I think the reason I was asking that is I wanted to know whether she would be on edge when she gets to the city or not.
No. She's quite at home in a very gory crime scene. It's going to be when she has to speak to people around the dinner table that it's going to be the problem.
Okay. All right. Well, why don't we have her enter? Why don't we have her get to the city? Let's say she drops her bags off at the inn. There's very little interaction there, and she heads straight for the crime scene. Does that sound reasonable?
That works.
Okay. So, let's say the crime scene is the one that she heads to is a. Let's say it's an apartment in the sort of middle class part of town. So
Okay.
the houses are nice but not very big. They're well maintained, but obviously by themselves. And
The suburb. It's like not the suburbs, but that kind of feel.
right, yeah. And the apartment buildings are clean and neat and maintained. Like the landlords obviously take care of them, but they're not elegant or anything. They're functional. So this apartment that you're in is actually in the top, that you get to is in the top back. And as you get to the apartment, there's this city's watch. Outside, there's a guy that catches you before you enter, and he says, this is a crime scene. So he kind of stops you and, official, this is a crime scene. Now, does Amira wear a uniform? Is there a symbol that all city watches have in this part of the world, or?
I think she wouldn't necessarily have a uniform. She would have some kind of armor on, but she would also have her traveling cloak over it. So if she did have some kind of badge, it would probably be hooked into the breastplate of the armor. So at that point, she wouldn't even show it to him because she would assume everyone knows she's coming. So she would just look at the person and say, but yes, that's why I'm here.
And he's...
Oh my God, hold on. Cat, stop. 1 second.
That's okay.
He just knocked himself stupid on the glass trying to get birds.
Oh no. Is he okay?
He's fine. He's absolutely fine. I'm just afraid he's gonna fall off and break something. He's a weirdo.
I want to hang these like cat tree things on the wall. And I want to go like up over a doorway, but the doors in this house are really tall, and I'm like, I don't know, what if they fall off? Like, what if they don't land on their feet?
They'll land on their feet.
Okay, so breastplate of the armor.
She would address them, and she would just kind of look at them and blink a couple times and be like, yes, I know, that's why I'm here.
And she said, or the gentleman you're talking to says, oh, I don't know. And he looks at the guy next to him, and the guy next to him goes, didn't the captain say that they were bringing in an outside investigator? And the first guy goes, oh, right. How about you take her up to the captain? And the other guy goes, yeah, okay. So the second guy seems very friendly. The first guy seems a little unsure of himself.
Well, she's also she would be pretty physically intimidating.
Yeah.
Given her size and the fact she has a giant sword across her back.
I think both of the guys you're talking to feel very junior. I mean, the first guy you talk to is like skinny little, nothing. The second guy you talk to is a little sturdier, but he's still shorter than you are. And they both seem very young, very earnest, very young. So the second guy who's going to take you up, he says, hey, my name's Ren. Come with me. Just a junior officer, of course. Let me take you to the captain. He seems very cheerful. He grins. So he takes you up the stairs, and he says, what do you know about the case so far? I can try and fill you in before we get up to the captain. I don't know a lot, but...
Not too much. They sent me here because it's a string of murders, correct?
Yes, actually. Not a lot of people in town know that, so please keep that to yourself. We're trying to prevent a panic, the captain says. Don't want to panic, of course, in a city like this.
So how many? Usually 3 is where you would think it was the same person, but Is it more than 3?
This is the third, actually. And there are a couple of details that the captain is keeping under wraps that I don't know. I'm sure he'll tell you. That is, I think, why we think it's linked together.
Okay. All right. Did you actually see the crime scene?
He turns a little green and he says, "No, I'm not quite that experienced yet." And he seems kind of uncomfortable. He stumbles a little bit.
She pats him on the back a little probably too strongly, because
He staggers.
touching is a weird thing. And she's like, "You get used to it. Just remember to throw up outside the door."
And he looks like he's taking a mental note about that. Outside the got it. Don't throw up on the body. Yes, that's a good tip. Yeah. He stops at a door and knocks rather officially. No, I don't want a phone call. Go away. Knocks rather officially and sort of straightens up like he's, coming to attention or whatever. The door opens and an older man pokes his head out and he says, "Are you, and he looks like he's trying to remember your name.
Amira.
Amira. Yes, you're the investigator. Right. Yes. Come right in.
Sergeant. Yeah.
Sergeant, my apologies. Please step right in. Run. Thank you so much. Get back down to the door. Run does not salute because this City Watch doesn't salute, but he's, "Yes, sir." And he marches right off. The investigator brings you, sorry, not the investigator. The human you have met brings you into the room and he says, "Sergeant, it is excellent to meet you. I am also the sergeant. I am also a sergeant." He seems a little awkward. I said, "My name is Sergeant Drag, and yes, I've heard all the jokes. The captain is in the next room. We have set up in here, and you can see all of the furniture in here has been sort of cleared away. There's a table with things that look like they've got, like they've been bagged and like little notes. There are a couple of people like sort of bustling around." And he says, "She's in the next room. She is trying out a new technique that our district whatever has allowed her to do. She's a very interesting captain. She has all of these different ideas and different experiments. So please, it's a little non-traditional, but she gets results. It's I beg of you, please just give her a chance to explain what she's doing. Is that all right? If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them."
No, that's fine. I thought you were giving me the information. So.
And he says, "Oh, of course, I can give you as much as I have, but I think the captain would prefer to give you the rundown." She's very particular.
She looks confused because she really thought that the kid was bringing her to the captain.
Yes, and he's trying.
So she is confused at the moment.
Okay. He's trying to. What I was trying to do here was to step out of Sergeant Drag. Was set up like an exterior room so you don't walk straight into the murder with like all
no, I get what you were setting up. It's just that Amira would be confused. She would be like, "But I thought you..."
Why am I talking to you? I want to talk to the person who has the information. Is that what she's doing?
Yeah, she's basically
politely.
Okay.
And so he catches the confusion and he's like, "Okay, I'm just gonna, let me just go get the captain." So he goes over to another doorway, which appears to be going into a bedroom. Pretty classic layout. There's a kitchen to your left, that kind of thing. And a woman with very disheveled hair. It looks like she tried to, at the beginning of the day, put it up in one of those rather elegant, like, twisty buns, right? Pokes her head out the door and she says, "You're here! Excellent! One moment!" She goes back in. She comes out and she's wiping her hands and there's this dust coming off of her hands. And she's like, yes, okay. There's little smudges of dust on her clothes. It's like a sort of a pearly white color, almost. She's wearing what could feel like uniform. It's not armor. It's like black trews, black tunic. And she's got a symbol that you've seen on all of the officers. It's a little different than yours, whatever badge that you have. And it's embroidered instead of like a physical badge. She comes over and she sticks out a hand. She says, "It is excellent to meet you. You have a wonderful reputation."
Amira will look at her hand first to make sure that she has removed any gloves she might have been wearing when handling evidence.
She has. She was dusting off her hands, and then she pulled off gloves and tucked them into a pocket.
Great. All right. So she will reach out her hand and shake it.
And she says, "I am Captain Yond. It is so wonderful to meet you. Sergeant Amira, was it?"
Yes, that is correct.
Excellent. Let me give you the rundown. Now, what have you been told so far? I reached out to your captain based on your reputation, but he's an old fuddy-duddy, so I don't know quite what he told you. What do you got?
They didn't tell me much. They told me you had a series of murders, which I believe at the time I started out was 2, but now has gone to 3.
That is indeed correct.
Yes, and that they were murdered rather violently in non-magical means, which apparently confused you all.
It is quite confusing. I don't want to say that murder is condoned in this city, but there is a certain sense of a certain kind of rituals that we perform when there are murders. I say we, of course, the city.
She looks very confused.
I know it seems very strange, but there are certain honorifics that we perform that our criminals will perform when there is a murder. It's almost like they're honoring their dead, and there's none of that here. And usually those rituals involve some sort of power stealing or spirit capturing or something like that. There's none of this. It seems fairly senseless. We're not quite sure where this is coming from. But it's also very clinical in nature. It's odd. I'd like you to come look at this. Do you have a strong stomach?
Yes. I'll be completely fine. Oh, do you have the body?
We do actually. This one, we knew that you were on the way, and we wanted to keep it fairly intact. So hang on. I just got lost. One
She
moment.
looks far too excited.
So logic in my head, you started on the second one. Yes. Okay. So when we sent the message, we had just found the second one, and I just had an inkling. I thought, this there's 2. We usually wait till 3 to call it, but I wanted to get you on your way here. This one happened this morning, and we'll say it's like early afternoon.
What was the calling card? Like, what made you think it was the same killer?
That is what is fascinating. Now, how graphic do you want to go into this?
Oh, I listen to autopsy podcasts.
All right,
It doesn't bother me.
I'll put a warning when I post this because I can.
It doesn't. Nothing. That just. I mean, my dad's a combat medic, and I grew up, hearing all kinds of weird stuff. Does not bother me at all.
All right. If anybody in chat doesn't like me getting too gory, go ahead and call it out now. I'm totally comfortable with that. I was in a session one time and I had buzz flying noises, and somebody in chat was like, "Oh, I don't like that." And I was like, "Okay, we get rid of that."
No, I know a lot of people don't handle it well. So yeah, I mean, absolutely, chat. We can gloss over it if it makes people uncomfortable.
Yeah. Okay. So she leads you up to the doorway.
But I feel like she has an idea already of what it is. Like, you're so excited. You're like,
Yeah. So she leads you up to the door and she says, "Okay, so very careful here. What do you think of this?" She said. And so what you see is there's a body that has been cut up into its parts, right? The arm has been cut up into each of its different parts. The fingers have been separated out. It appears that the cuts have been made on each joint, but the body is still laying on the floor in the correct position. There's about an inch gap between each of the pieces, so it's like spread out. All of the organs have been removed and are set to the right of the body in the same shape that the organs would be in the body, but again, separated out. And there are buckets of blood. So there's no blood on the ground. The blood is in these different buckets.
Are there rafters on the ceiling?
Let's see. Yeah, I think there would be rafters.
Is there any rope still attached to the rafters? Maybe something that looks frayed?
I think I'm going to have to ask you for an investigation check for that. Let's do that. Yeah, let's get some dice. Do you got a d20?
Oh boy. Oh no, how did I close my freaking character sheet? No. No, Kelly, why are you this way?
Before we go into this, I'm going to say that actually, Amira, we should be looking at the sheet for Amira at least level 3 if you've built up a bit of a reputation. It doesn't help your investigation because that's still at +0, but let's just go ahead and use 3.
Well, it's at 0 because I forgot it's not going to assign my stuff for me. I have to go in and do it, I believe. But at 3 because I didn't improve anything on this character, because I really thought D&D Beyond would just take my original choices, but I don't think they did.
How about we say you
Uh,
have
one-
a +1 at least on investigation, because I think the story that we're telling here has Amira with enough experience with this kind of work that it would make more sense for her to have at least a +1 on investigation. What do you think?
yeah, give me 1 second. Just because they didn't yet again. Okay, I love D&D Beyond, but it drives me crazy when you copy a character and it doesn't copy all of the choices.
Yeah, it's been doing that.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, I think it's because it's still in beta, the new sheets. So it's fine, but I just wanted to make sure that my stuff was there for my roles. Not that my roles are going to be good, because if you have not actually ever watched me play games, I roll like crap, like pretty much always,
Good, great.
constantly.
Yeah,
It's great,
awesome. Yeah,
right?
you're
Yeah.
damn.
It's fantastic. Okay, so investigation roll. Come here, you. Do the thing. Roll. Not terrible, 16.
That's not bad at all. What Amira realizes is that there are indeed beams. What she picks up on, though, is that there is the room is oddly dark. There are some lanterns set up on pieces of furniture, but you can tell that that's a bit haphazard. What's missing from this room is the hook that, is the lamp that would normally hang in the hook that's in the middle of the room
Okay, so there is a hook in the middle of the room.
with a missing lamp.
Well, the question has to really be, and she's talking to the captain at this point, how they killed them before they dismembered them.
And the captain says, I agree. What's difficult here is on all three bodies that we've come across, there isn't a clear kill method. It's as if there's no other mark on them. There isn't even struggle, which is very strange.
Well, the kill method could very easily be hidden by the disarticulation.
And the captain says, I hadn't thought of that.
And she points up at the hook, and then she points over to the buckets of blood.
And the captain says, yes, I was going to bring your attention to that. In all three locations, it has been a room like this with a lamp that normally hangs in the middle of the room. The lamp has been missing. We didn't realize until this case that the pieces from the lamp are spread out in a 2-block radius at 4 different locations. 2 blocks in 4 different directions from this location.
Are they always in the same kind of location, or they've scattered?
They're scattered, but they're always about 2 blocks away, and they're the cardinal directions: north, south, east, and west. And it's different. The lanterns have all been different. So, but it's one lantern was like smashed into pieces, and we found the broken pieces. That one was very difficult to find. This one was just dismantled. It had 4 bits, and so like we found the hood in one part, we found the base in another part, we found the what we think is the candle in another part, and we found what we think is the ignition mechanism in another part.
I'm probably gonna need to do an investigation roll again for this one, but the severing of the ankles, would there be any red marks on the skin at all around it? Like, say, rope burn?
Yeah, go ahead and do me another investigation check. I'm going to give you advantage on it because you called out the articulation before this. I think that there could be something hidden in that.
Natural 20.
Excellent. Okay, I'm really glad you got that because I had a neat idea. So you're looking at the ankles, and tell me if this works. If it doesn't work, that's totally fine. Would Amira be precise enough to realize that there is about an inch missing from the leg at the ankle where...
Well, yeah, because the joint wouldn't be disarticulated properly in that case.
Yeah. So she catches that. I'm also going to say, because you roll a nat 20, that there is also a chunk missing out of the neck.
I like that, by the way, Spoon, I like the fact that you picked up exactly where I was going with that.
Yeah, that was fun. Too much Dexter.
So, yeah. See, some people had Dexter. I just have many years of murder.
Yeah.
Podcasts. Not
Podcast.
doing.
No.
Um, so Amira would kind of lean down and get, which would probably make the captain wonder why she asked if he had a strong stomach, because she would get like inches away from
Okay.
the joints. The other question was, I'm sorry, were the joints disarticulated or sawed through?
I like the idea of them being disarticulated.
Okay,
Now,
because that makes a difference. Takes longer.
what I think is going to be interesting is that it's not as if the meat around it has been torn. So it's almost like that's been cut down and then it's been articulated. So it's harder to tell that there's like a gap where the ankles would be or where the neck is.
Yeah, but there would be a couple missing bones in both places.
Right.
So she'll point that out and she'll say, I think I have the reason for your missing lamps and hooks. And she would explain, if chat hasn't already jumped to the same conclusions that I'm broadcasting, that the person was probably hung upside down after being most likely, and that's what the buckets of blood are. Because otherwise it would be a freaking mess.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
To disarticulate the place.
The captain leans back, makes a face at the sergeant like, I told you so. And the sergeant's like, there was no evidence for this. And the captain was like, clearly there is. And Drag leaves. He's like, all right, and he just seems disappointed in himself, and the captain is just thrilled. She's like, I knew there was something and I knew you would catch it. You can get too close to these things, I know these people. I've seen them on the street and stuff. It takes a keen eye like yours.
Distressing.
The captain says it can be. None of these were particular friends of mine, of course, but I like to keep an eye on the our city and things. And she says,
that's helpful.
None of that. Okay, so the killer we have here decapacitated the humans. Decapacitated the humans. Incapacitated. That's the word. Incapacitated the humans. Something with the neck. Either we think a slice or perhaps strangulation. I don't know if you've considered that. And then it appears that they were hung from their ankles in order to exsanguinate them. Does that sound about right?
Exsanguinate. Yes. Yes. Although I would go with initial either manual or rope strangulation before hanging them up, because if there was a slice, you would have had spray on the walls.
Yes.
I promise, chat, I am not actually a murderer.
My search history looks really weird because I'm a writer, and so like it just the best way to murder a cat, that's in my search history because it's something that came up in a either a game or a book, it's stuff like that. I don't murder cats. I love my babies,
Yep. So Amira would explain that. And she would take a look at the layout, first the disarticulation of the joints, and then the fact that the organs were laid out properly. Were the organs laid out this neatly at the first two crime scenes?
And the captain says they were. In the same position. Everything is identical.
Well, I think you can eliminate most professions that wouldn't have access to anatomical things. So you'd probably be looking at a butcher, because butchers know how to disarticulate joints and would know that. You would probably, or you could look at a surgeon. I mean, you could be looking at somebody who's just really weird and reads lots of books about murder, but in general, they just read lots of books about murder. They don't do it.
And the captain says, all right, that's interesting. So, let's see, what direction do I take this in?
Was there anything common between the victims? What they did, what they looked like?
And the captain says, not that we've discovered so far. But, as she's saying that, the sergeant from the other room says, I think we found a connection, Captain, but it's a bit loose. He pokes his head in, and he says, it's really loose. Do you want to hear it?
I mean, is it looser than the joints?
The sergeant looks confused.
That was a joke.
The captain tries not to giggle, and the captain says, spit it out, man. And he says, well, they were all ill.
Ill?
This young lady here, she apparently had some sort of stomach condition. that caused her a great deal of pain, and she had to eat very particular foods. The last person that we had actually had an injury to the knee that caused a severe limp. He was quite an older gentleman, and one of the things we noticed is that it had sort of warped his sort of hips and back. And then the first person we found had a wasting sickness. They just, no matter how much they ate or what they did, they were just wasting away.
Right. Does this city have a hospital of any kind?
Captain says, yes, we have quite a fine one, actually. Our doctors go all the way to the name of the city. I can't remember right now, but I swear it exists in Azinlia. And for those of you that hear me talk about Shift, it's where they started. They go all the way to there for training and back, and we're very proud of them.
Right. Have you asked about these patients at the hospital?
We have. We've actually, the captain says, I sent a note over there after the second one because I had decided that it might have something to do with surgery of some kind. Although with this new information, I was already going over there today. Would you mind accompanying me? I was already going over there for a consultation, but now I have some questions about whether or not they've seen these people as patients. Wouldn't you say that is a logical conclusion?
I think it's a very logical conclusion because, for instance, you couldn't. The first two, you could maybe look at them on the street and know they were ill. But this young lady, you wouldn't be able to look at her and know she was sick.
That is an excellent point.
I really hope that they have notes and they're going to get you the name of the city.
Luth does. Luth writes everything down. I also have it written down, but I'd have to look it up, and I don't want to. So I said it out loud and hoped he would catch it, because whenever I'm like, I don't remember this, he zooms in from chat. He's doing something else. Hi, baby. Ugh.
See, I have bad dreams sometimes, and then I have to get cuddled.
I want cuddles.
I know.
Where's my dog? Tara, come here and cuddle me. Tara, come here and cuddle me.
He sometimes wakes us up in the middle of the night because he'll just start crying at the foot of the bed, and then we have to cuddle him. Where's my baby? Where's Tara? There's the baby. Do you see the puppers?
You good girl.
Do you see the... He does see the puppers.
She was sleeping.
He's like, huh.
She was sleeping, and she resents this.
Oh.
Okay, I'm going to release you, and she's going to run away. See you. Oh, do you want to come cuddle in my lap? That's not going to work because you're huge.
That's a good baby girl.
All right, good baby girl.
This has turned into a dog stream now, everybody. We've left murder behind.
Sorry, everyone.
All dogs.
You want to go lay down?
It's dogs all the way down. Baby.
All right, so we've got a hospital. We've got the first two were visibly ill. The third one was not. Now, would you like to go through...
Although the gentleman might not have been ill. He was just in pain, which, while would create a chronic disability, wasn't in danger of death.
That's
the
true.
The first one was probably in danger of death. The third one might have been.
Mm-hmm. So that's an interesting point of data as well.
The gentleman was not.
Yeah. And they were different ages as well, which is interesting. Okay.
If it makes you laugh at all, the last time I did one of these was a Witcher charity stream with Doug. And we were investigating a body, and my dad was apparently watching in Twitch, and he started texting me. He's like, no, you forgot to look for kerf marks on the bones and everything. And
How could you, Kelly?
Yeah.
Thanks,
so
Dad.
Then I was like, my dad is backseating, and they're like, yes. Oh.
That's wonderful.
Nurses, kids.
Yeah. All right, so would you like to go through the minutiae of getting to the hospital, which is
no, it's fine. Okay, that takes up time. Yeah.
So just
if we're trying to establish what kind of villain your world is about to get. Probably quicker to get to the hospital.
Okay, so you arrive at the hospital. It's early evening. What you notice about the hospital is it's in a bit of it straddles the better part of town and this part of town. It is painted a shocking white. It's a whitewashed building, and it is about as clean as a building can be. You actually see somebody sitting on one of those boards that they hang from the top of the building, like window washing. They're making sure everything is they're not just window washing, they're actually getting the sills and making sure everything is clean. The front doors are quite wide. There are no steps up to the door, but a gently sloping ramp. When you get up to the door, the captain opens it and walks right in. You walk into a very large and airy hall. There are people sitting in chairs along this hall, and there are other people who are bustling around, and they're wearing very clean, starch white aprons that go quite high. They cover them basically from collar to foot, and all the way to the back almost. You can just glimpse their clothing at the collar and their sleeves and the bottoms. And as you walk in, one of them changes direction and bustles up to the captain and says, "Captain, are you here to meet with the doctor?" And the captain says, "I am. I believe I have an appointment." And the humanoid you were talking to says, "She will be in her office. Do you know the way?" And the captain says, "I do." And the captain gestures at you to follow, and the hall ends in a staircase that goes up and around. The captain looks at you and says, "There's a lift, but do you mind the stairs? I need to get my exercise. Are you good?"
Amira kind of looks a little uncomfortable, but she nods and she, continues up the stairs.
So the captain checks their gate to make sure that you're going at the same speed. You get up to the top of the stairs, and there's rows of doors. But right at the top of the stairs is a door with a glass pane in it, and a nameplate that says
random name generator.
Dr. Mazo underneath it.
Okay.
This is why I have bookshelves near me when I stream. So the captain knocks briskly and then walks right in. You walk into a fairly spacious office. It looks like there's a table with some chairs around it where there could be a meeting. There's a desk over by the windows that's set into one of those bay windows. Very nice big windows. And
sorry, it's not you, it's me.
Oh no,
I didn't mean to yawn.
No, I wasn't laughing at you. It's simultaneously too early and for me to be awake, but also late enough that I want to nap. The reason I was making that face is instead of giving me the name of this place, Luth wrote first initial A, which is not helpful.
That's not helpful, Luth.
It's not helpful. There's also bookshelves throughout this entire room covered in books, which is a bit unusual. You would normally see this many books in a library. And there is an older woman behind the desk, and she stands up. Oh, Luth says no for Dr. Mazo. Oh, I see. You were helping. Thank you. I still want the name of that city, damn it. What good? What good are you doing? Dr. Mazo stands up. She has a cane, and she comes around the desk. She still seems strong, but she's definitely using that cane. She shakes hands with the captain and says, "Captain, it's so nice of you to call on me. And who is your friend?"
I am Sergeant Amira. I am from such and such city that we never named.
Yes.
So, I'm here as an outside consultant.
So it has reached outside consultancy, and the captain says, "I'm afraid we do have a serial." And the doctor, she puts both hands on the top of her cane and she shakes her head and she says, "This is truly dreadful. In what way can the hospital assist you?" And she gestures towards the table, and you all take seats, or at least the captain and the doctor take seats. And the doctor starts pouring out glasses of water and handing them out.
Amira will take the water, and she stays standing. She's kind of she stands, and then she would pace. She does walk with kind of a strange gait. Uh-oh, buddy. Uh-oh, what's that? Justin just got up. Do you hear him? He didn't let you wake him up. Oh, how terrible. And she would so were the 3 victims, were they all patients at this hospital?
And the doctor says, "I'm not quite sure. Have you identified the unfortunate victims, Captain?" And the captain says, "I have, actually," and pulls out a piece of paper with 3 names and some details underneath written on them. And she says, "I thought you would want this." And she slides it over to the doctor. And the doctor takes out a pair of reading glasses, puts them on, and looks at it, and she says, yes, I do recognize this first one. That's a specialty of mine. I don't recognize the other two, but again, that's not one of my specialties. But I would say that the first victim being one of my patients indicates that it's definitely worth seeing if the other two were. One moment. She stands up, she goes over to a shelf and one of the bookshelves, and she pulls out like a very narrow sheaf of papers, and she starts flipping through it, and she says, all right, we are going to want these two other doctors whose names I don't want to make up right now. I will send messages to both of them. She pulls on a bell pull that rings a bell, and a very young lady, probably still in her teens, pokes her head in and says, yes, Dr. Mazo. And the doctor says, will you please fetch these, will you please send notes to these two doctors and ask them if these humans were patients of theirs? And Mazo quickly scribbles out the names on 2 more sheets of paper and hands them over. And the woman says, of course, runs away. The doctor takes her seat again, and she says, you understand, we keep our files in our individual offices. I keep a list of the doctors that work here, as I am the head of this hospital. But everybody here is their own kind of specialist, and we try to respect that. It'll just take a moment to get their response. What do you intend to do with this information?
She completely ignores the question. Do you have possibly any interns? Like, whatever interns would be called, like apprentices, people that would be studying with all of you, or for certain times?
Mazo says, we do. The young woman you just saw is actually one such. She's probably going to tend towards more of the administration. She doesn't quite have the stomach for this, but she's very earnest and kind. I'm sorry, I'm babbling. We have quite a flock of youngsters, and some not so young, that wish to learn the craft. We use this program to weed out those who are not quite suited for it, for one reason or another. And the more promising ones we sponsor to go off to the city that my husband hasn't given me the name for yet because he's the worst, to get their best training. We hope that they come back, and we do have a fairly good success rate, but our intent is to spread knowledge. Yeah. Oh, you're muted.
So they would have access to, or at least knowledge of, multiple doctors' patients.
Yes, apprentices. Yes, what we do with our apprentices, that's what I'm going to call them, is we introduce them to the hospital in general. I usually take that class. And then once they are familiar with all of the different areas, we assign them to the different doctors that they might be interested in. But we do make them work with all of the doctors. We don't make them. We encourage them to work with all of the doctors to make sure that they find just the right specialty that they might be interested in. So all of our apprentices would have some knowledge of the patients here. That doesn't.
What about access to records?
And she says, no, the records are definitely kept within our offices. Our offices, when we are not in our offices, are locked.
What about equipment? Do you each have your own equipment? Do you store it in a central area? Is it cleaned in a central area?
And she says, all of our surgeries and all of the rooms where we treat patients are on the bottom floor. They are general rooms that are assigned. There are some that are assigned on a walk-in basis. There are some that are assigned for some of our scheduled surgeries. Those are common rooms that are attended by our staff. They are kept locked when they're not in use because some of that equipment can be dangerous. Anything that needs to be repaired is also kept locked away. Anything that needs to be cleaned is being handled while it's cleaned, and then it is secured as well.
And you're the only one with all the keys?
And she says, I do, of course, have keys to the entire building, but our chief of our building chief, our facilities chief, there's a dude who has keys to all the surgeries, so he can keep them clean. Yes.
Maintenance guy.
Luth says the city is called Ethanoir, which doesn't sound familiar, but I do believe him. So that's where
I
they
never
send all the
believed my
doctors.
husband.
Try to make it a habit.
I don't know.
There's a cat behind my
Oh,
monitor.
he says that's why I'm always wrong.
Ooh, shots fired. Shots fired, Mr. Fancy Pants.
Yes. So she she would say also, I would like to meet with the maintenance person. They have keys to all the cabinets as well.
And she says he only has keys to the spaces where we perform treatments on patients. I have keys to all the other doctors' offices, but this gentleman does not.
Okay.
Sometimes, web captioner, you do not do a great job.
No. Sometimes it's weird.
Anyway, and she says, I will absolutely have him meet you. He should be doing his rounds right about now, actually. His evening rounds for some of the patient treatment rooms. She gestures at her leg and she says, I can either meet you at the bottom of the staircase or we can all take the lift down. And
I would actually prefer to take the lift down if you don't mind.
The captain says, yes, let's all take the lift. So she takes you downstairs. You use what you only see in modern cities is this lift mechanism. It's a bit rattly, but you've been in them once or twice before, I think I can safely say.
Mm-hmm.
Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. And then as they're taking the lift, the doctor's rubbing at her hip and leaning rather heavily on her cane. She gets to the bottom, and she's leading you towards a gentleman who's quite tall, quite broad, and very serious looking. And he's got a rattling ring of keys on his hip. He changes direction to come right over to Dr. Mazo, and he says, yes, ma'am, what may I do for you today? And she gestures to the two of you, Amira and Yond, and says, this is Captain Yond and her associate, Sergeant Amira, and they have some questions for you about some of our patients. I would appreciate it if you would engage with them. It's quite important, and none of us will be in trouble, but we would like to assist the captain in their investigation. And the gentleman, there's a small crease in his forehead, which might indicate concern or confusion. It's not clear, but he nods and says, "Of course, Dr. Mazo. May I bring? Do you need anything?" And she says, "No. Captain, I'll be up in my office if you need anything." And she steps back into the lift. The gentleman in front of you nods his head, and he has to have a name. And he says, "Good afternoon, or good evening, rather. My apologies. It's been quite a long day. My name is." Hastings. How may I help you?
How long has the doctor had her disability?
And the gentleman, Hastings, that line on his forehead appears again, and he says, "I've only ever known Dr. Mazo to have to work with a cane. She's worked here for quite a long time, but she's a bit older than I am, so I'm not entirely sure."
Right. And so they would present the list, I think, to him to see if he recognizes any of the names on it.
He looks at it and he gives it sort of a cursory glance, and he says, "I'm sorry, I don't usually work with the patients. I'm more of a building man." However,
okay.
He says, "However, I do have records of the surgeries we've done. Would you like me to take you to those and see if there's any that match this list?" I'll have to.
Yes, that would be great.
So he takes you to. He's actually gonna usher you back into the lift, and you go down into the basement. He takes you to a room where there is a just tiny, hunched over human with huge glasses at a desk, who looks up and says, "Yes." And Hastings says, "Hello, good evening. We're looking for the records for the surgery room. And the human you're talking to says, "Does Dr. Mazo know about this?" And Casting says, "Of course, we're doing an investigation with the captain. I'd really appreciate it if you could look up these 3 names." And the person with the big glasses seems to be squinting in suspicion and says, "Fine." And gets up, scurries over to just rows and rows of bookshelves. And, starts shuffling around and pulls out 3 files and comes back over and says, "Yes, these 3 names have been in the hospital, but only one of them has surgery." And she pushes.
Would that be the gentleman?
And the person with the big glasses squids at you suspiciously and says, "Yes, it is. It looks here like he had an injury to his knee, and we attempted to repair it unsuccessfully. Although he is still able to walk. The other 2 had different."
No, it's not.
And the person squints at you and she says, "This file says he's still able to walk. If you have an update to the
He's in
file."
multiple pieces, so I don't think.
The eyes get really big and the captain says, "Oh, Amira, yes. So
What?
may we, let me, one moment. Let's just get these files. Thank you so much. If we do have new information, we will, of course, update them." And the person with the glasses is, like, holding on to them and is like, "You can't take these." And the captain says, "We're going to take them up to Dr. Mazo's office, and I'm sure she will return them." And the humanoid's like, No, these can't leave the room." And Hastings sort of puts a reassuring hand on the desk and says, "I will bring them back this evening." And they let go and they sit back down at the desk and they say, "If you don't bring those back, the records will be incomplete. Do you remember what happened the last time the records were incomplete?" And Hastings says, "Yes, I remember vividly. We will not let that happen again."
What happened the last time the records were incomplete?
Hastings says, "I'll tell you on the way up to the lift." As you get back out into the hallway and he's leading you towards the lift, he looks over his shoulder and he says, "That's the record keeper. I don't actually know if they have a name. They prefer to be referred to as the record keeper. I don't even know if they sleep. They feel very strongly about the records. And the last time that we were missing, it was a single piece of paper. They raised hell. I've never seen them out of that room, but they were out of that room. We finally found it. It had been crumpled up into a ball and like into a waste paper basket. She found it. I don't know. Nobody else could find it. And but she raised hell for like 4 days. It was the worst. Nobody could sleep. The food was all torn apart because she was looking through that. It was not fun. I will get these records back down there. But Dr. Mazo can help you make copies if you need any of this information." So you go back up to Dr. Mazo's office, who welcomes you and gestures at Hastings to stay. And Mazo starts flipping through the files and says, "Yes, I see. Each of these individuals has very serious conditions. It looks like we were attempting to treat this last one with a special diet. But the first one, unfortunately, while I specialize in that condition, this person had a fairly virulent version of it, and I wasn't able to slow it at all. I'm afraid they wouldn't have made it much past the end of the year if this hadn't happened."
What about the second gentleman?
Mazo starts to flip through that file and says, "It looks here like he was involved in a carriage accident. He was a carriage driver, and he was thrown when a wheel broke. Yes, and it looks like he got trampled by one of the carriage horses who was panicking. Let's see, it looks like his knee socket was shattered. We did some surgery to try and align the pieces so that they would heal in the right way and not pierce anything. But we were only partially successful. He could still walk, but he had quite a stiff gait. The joint ended up being more frozen than anything else. It was quite a long recovery time. It looks like he stayed with us for almost 2 months."
And was he in quite a bit of pain all the time?
Indeed, yes. We did as much as we could for him, but I'm afraid we don't have access to some of the more strong medications. And even if we did, they're very risky to use. And he was very adamant that he be kept as coherent as not coherent. He didn't like to be muddled. So we did what we could with willow bark and things of that nature, because we had to keep him immobile as well. We had to keep his leg immobile.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like we noted down here that he had quite a difficult time. but he left here walking, so that's a good sign.
And the last patient?
And she says, ah, yes. She slides that to herself. And as she's flipping through it, she looks up at Mazo and says, if you have any details to add, Castings. And Castings says, I think I remember the gentleman because he underwent several treatments. He was the only patient we had for that long period. I kept having to shuffle the room schedules around his room because, of course, we didn't want to move him. He was kind, a bit gruff, obviously didn't like being in pain, but that's all I remember. She's flipping through the third file and she says, yes, this young lady, actually, we were making quite a bit of progress on. She had these horrible stomach pains, and the doctor that was treating her has been having some success with altering diets, like what you consume. It's quite difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like she is unable to eat red meat. We did narrow that down. We had just figured that out. We were trying her on a new diet. She seemed to be doing quite well, but the stomach pains were debilitating. She couldn't get out of bed. And so she was avoiding eating, and she was wasting away. I actually saw her originally, and I transferred her to this other doctor because it's not quite my specialty. So sad. She was making quite a bit of progress.
Amira would turn to the captain. I think I have an idea.
And the captain says, I would love to hear it because this is a lot of data, but I'm not quite sure what conclusions to draw from this. I would appreciate your help. Would you like to discuss this here, or would you like to discuss it back at the station? And the doctor puts their hand on the table and is like, I would love to participate in this if you don't mind.
Of course. I think that the person who did this thinks they were being helpful.
And the captain says, but everybody at the table looks confused. And the captain says, what? How do you draw that conclusion? They murdered 3 people.
Yes. 3 people that were in excruciating pain.
And the captain says, but the doctor says that the 3rd person wasn't in excruciating pain. And the doctor cuts in and says, and actually the first patient wasn't in pain. She wasn't thriving.
It was an illness that was debilitating.
It was definitely terminal, yeah. We didn't have a way of fixing it.
And the 3rd girl, you had been trying multiple avenues for quite a bit, but had only recently found some success. How recently?
The doctor looks at the file and she says, oh, well, that's just sad. We started her on this new diet yesterday. She was here yesterday.
Mm-hmm. So until yesterday, anyone that knew them or knew of the condition would have seen somebody in debilitating pain that could not move.
And Dr. Mazo looks up the captain in horror and says, she might be right. That would be terrible. But why do this kind of thing?
Well, it does eliminate one thing. Well, not eliminate, but it narrows it down. Whoever did that to her didn't have access to your files.
That's a good point. The doctor seems to be mostly horrified at this point, so you're getting a lot of interaction from the captain, and the captain says, okay, I get putting them out of their misery, but why like that? Why chop them up into bits? Why drain their blood? What?
It didn't... Well, you do that so that it's not a mess. Because...
The doctor looks more horrified.
Because they were taking them to pieces to see if they could figure out what was wrong.
And the captain looks thoughtful, and the doctor looks confused, and the doctor says, Captain, you haven't actually told me how you found the bodies.
Oh, I can tell you. Do you want me to tell you? I can tell you.
The captain says yes.
So that poor Spoon doesn't have to talk to herself.
And the captain says, yes, please. And Castings looks uncomfortable but stays.
I'm actually going to pay attention to Hastings
Mm-hmm.
while I'm talking.
Okay.
How uncomfortable does he look? Does he look upset?
He doesn't look upset. He looks exactly like people look when they don't like talking about bodily functions.
Okay. Um, so she would explain that they were all completely disarticulated with gaps where the obvious cause of death and post-mortem blood drainage was happening, and then all the stuff laid out and everything.
The doctor says, that sounds almost not the disarticulation, but the way the organs were removed and the way the blood was drained. That sounds like an autopsy. We perform
Yes.
these studies when we do have patients that die in odd ways, if their families allow it, to see if we can figure out how they died. But
Yes.
we don't dismember them. That's very strange. We don't disarticulate them. And
Well, this person does.
the doctor,
I believe the disarticulation may have simply been a blind to hide the cause of death and the hanging, most likely.
and the doctor nods and says, yes, that might be true. But one of these patients did have a joint problem. I wonder if the disarticulation was intentional to try to get to the bottom of the problem.
That also could be the case. And then it was simply a pattern, they had to be the same.
The doctor says, yes. And the captain says, but the first one didn't have a joint problem, and we saw the disarticulation there.
But this person probably already knew who they were going to kill.
And the captain says, of course. Well, if all
Which would explain the lack of access to records, so they didn't know the third girl was getting better.
Yes, of course. Well, how would they have picked their victims? Now, hang on, Kelly. We could keep doing this forever. Actually, I have like a million ideas, and I have like a million. I've got at least two solid suspects in the captain's brain.
Oh, I do too.
You know?
I do too.
But we're getting pretty close to noon, and I want to be respectful of your time. So I think this is a fairly decent place to leave this. I'm also happy to do another one of these with you if you want to pick up here.
Sure, at some point, even if you want to not necessarily do it on stream, but we could also work through it offline if you wanted to build.
I would love that.
If you wanted to build out the history for the character.
I would absolutely love that. I think that would be really good.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Because I think where we're going to be able to leave it right here. I'll be able to wrap it up with you a little bit offline, but I think I'm going to leave this a cold case. I don't think they're going to solve it. I think I'll have this happen in one of the 3 streams, 3 games time. This will be a good mystery for them to work on. I think that'll be fun.
Although I think I know who did it, but yeah.
Well, you could tell me that offline.
Or who makes sense to have done it.
Right. Okay, so what we did today is we gave Amira a bit of a scene. We talked with Amira when she was more experienced, and had quite a bit of knowledge about things like this. She was brought in as an expert. She was helping a captain, and she interacted with a sergeant, a junior officer, a nurse, and a facilities human, and a doctor.
Oh, please have them meet that junior officer when he's a senior officer and he tells them not to throw up inside the crime scene.
Yes, that's definitely gonna make a reappearance. I have to respond to text. Sorry.
It's okay. I'm playing with the dog's foot because he is dead asleep, and you can just like lift it up and drop it. It's a fun game. Oop. Oop. Yep.
Why are you failing me? Sorry about that, stream.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, so I really like that junior officer. I really want to make him a character in the future. I would say this is probably either the beginning or the middle of a story. I would imagine that if we were to keep playing the storyline through, there could be a chase. There could be much more investigations. There would be interrogations. There would be, you'd have to track people. You'd have to track places. I imagine there being a board with like string and stuff.
Yeah, the always sunny gif where it's just like, listen.
You know.
Well, one thing to think about if you're using this as a cold case for them to solve is they should think about when and why they stopped and who was no longer there. the same.
I like that. You know what I just realized is I didn't come up with a magic item, but I think that's okay. I don't think I want to toss something out at the last minute.
Well, and again, like I pointed out to you, I think that was pre-stream though. I think Amira would be quite resistant to having any magic used in the investigation. So that gives you an excuse to not have made one.
That's fair. Is Amira very anti-magic?
Not anti-magic, just anti-magic as a means to an end when you can't figure it out yourself.
Okay. Do you think she would use a magic item?
If it was a weapon or defense, yes. I think if it was something to say like a scrying tool, she probably wouldn't. I don't think she would trust the ability of the magic to be correct.
Wants to use her own eyes, own mind.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. I think that's really interesting. Okay. So we've got a lot of detail here. This was a super amount of fun for me. Thank you. I didn't have it in me to do voices today, so I apologize for that.
That's fine.
And sometimes I don't go quite into as much detail with a lot of these NPCs. Chiron says,
yeah, like Chiron is pointing out in chat, divination spells take all the fun out of an investigation.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a very good point. I think one of the murders I did, they needed magic to figure out where the tunnels were that the murderer was using. But that was...
Yeah, that's a little different, though.
Yeah, it was... Yeah, it wasn't how did the murder... Yeah, anyway. I think we're all on the same page. All right, with the last couple minutes we have left, Stream, thank you so much for joining us today. We should have another Brunches and Dragons in another 2 weeks. I haven't lined anybody up for next week yet. We should be on for Treasure Tuesday on Tuesday. I'm sorry we skipped last week. And I am still trying to put a doggos together, so I'll try and get that soon. But Kelli, where can the Stream find you in the future?
Well, this afternoon, probably around 4 or 4:30, depending on how much adulting I get done between now and then. I will be back on Twitch on my channel, which is twitch.tv/theoperageek, and I will be playing Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity for a little bit. But on Sundays, we always toss our raid over to Motherlands, which I'm actually not part of, but I like to...
It's so good.
Because
God, the characters... It's really good. Talk about characters. That friggin' game. I love it. It's so good.
Motherlands is wonderful. And Eugenio is one of my very good friends, as is Tanya, as is Christina.
Yeah.
So I might be biased, but I don't think so.
I know and like all of those humans, but I can't claim to be friends with them, so I am unbiased. I just think they're cool. That story is great.
They're just, I mean, let's be honest. Their creative team is great too.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my standard watch Motherlands at 7 p.m. EST if you want to see some really cool Afrofuturistic tabletop, which is cool.
Christina's my favorite character. That character is my favorite.
Scylla, yeah. Oh my god, I love it. Because, okay, so Scylla, when Eugenio had to be the dictionary to tell her how to be happy, was
I didn't see that part.
Yeah, Eugenio had to. She asked, "How do I be happy?" And he was like the robotic thing that had to tell her.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is the best thing ever. But yes, other than the Twitch, you can also find me on Twitter at the Opera Geek, and there's a pin post there that says all the other places you can find me.
That's convenient. I should do that.
Yeah. Makes it easy in the long run.
Kelli, thank you so much for spending time with me today. I was really looking forward to this because I think you've got a very interesting brain, and I love the stuff that I see you do. Right? Like I was really interested in seeing what kind of character we could come up with. So thank you for playing in my world, and I look forward to working with you again in the future. Stream. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Sunday, and go watch all of the other TTRPG streams. All right. I'll talk to you all later. Yay. And Kelli, we will say goodbye to the stream, and you and I will sync for a couple of minutes. Say bye, stream.